I beat the slime.
Thank God.
I'll
You beat that slime?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel powerful? Do you feel accomplished?
That's true.
That's good. I'm glad you're getting a sense of purpose.
Actually, my character, apparently, the little blurb, it's Slay the Spire, so it's just a card game, really. But the blurb about the color character is that she's a blind ascetic that's here to study the tower. So I guess this is my purpose.
To learn, to grow, to live, laugh, love, maybe.
Yeah, and to open this box. What's in this box?
I'm just the level of tired that you said, "What's in this box?" and my brain immediately went, "Pussy," obviously, and I'm like, "That's too much." Like that's. I just started the day. I can't.
Oh, I thought you were gonna reference that movie I haven't seen, but I know there's a head in the box.
7.
Yeah, actually, I have seen that. It's just been a long time.
Yeah. Actually, I found a really cool video essay about, it's not necessarily about 7, but it talks about 7 because 7 got a 4K digital remaster.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, good excuse to rewatch.
Well, it's been done by the original director as part of, like, restoring the original film negatives.
Nice.
And the video essay was about, the various aspects of, like, the restoration community. Because there's apparently people whose whole thing is gathering film reels that they find from like theaters and storage houses and stuff, and then digitally transferring those prints to like archive them.
Yes.
So there's people that have been doing that as to like try and preserve like what the films would look like in the theaters. So there's been some contesting between people online that are just like, the original director of 7 is wrong in the way that he is preserving and remastering his own film. Because it doesn't look like these prints, but the video essay is like, do you realize that the film reel that you get in the theater is a copy of a copy of a copy, and then that copy 3 generations down is getting ran through like 100 times and then not stored properly, so that's going to deteriorate like the quality of the transfer and like the negative and all sorts of other shit.
The restoration and archival community, while they're doing very important work, is insane. As someone who's into like, I got a bunch of VHS players. I've been like trying to archive a bunch of old tapes, off TV recordings, weird bullshit UFO tapes that I find that aren't online. But like, there are people who are so into it that they have like the most insane requirements. Like there are people who are getting mad about people using upscalers to like archive stuff because they're like, that's not truly what a VHS would look like. It's doing so much digitization. It's like, yeah, you're digitizing the video. Like
what you're supposed to do.
Like they almost have this attitude like, well, if you don't know how to solder directly onto the VHS player to get the direct data from the magnetized tape and then use another program to decompile it into video, it's just not worth your time to do. It's just like, that's insane. We need to archive as much as we can, as best as we can. And the best as we can is to the best of that person's ability.
Right.
Yeah.
If something comes up that's archived that's better, sure, toss the first one out or whatever. But
or,
like,
just keep them both in the same file and be like, this one's a better quality, but we have this other one as a backup.
Right.
I don't know. I just find it all fascinating, and I'm like, I think there are artistic positive and negatives to wanting to archive like what the general audience theater experience was of the film versus like what the directorial intent of the presentation of the film is.
Yeah, there is an argument.
I think that's interesting.
There's an argument to be made that once it's been released, it's kind of out of the director's hands, and that is the film. That is what people have experienced for decades. So to erase that is kind of dumb. But I'm definitely not in a group that's archiving film reels, and you can get individual reels for movies. Not in that, but I would say that if I was, I probably wouldn't download most of them because they're insanely big.
Yeah, I would imagine.
This is just a hypothetical. If a movie is split into 10 parts, each of them being 2 gigabytes, that is 200 gigabytes.
For a film.
Yes.
Bananas. Bananas.
Sorry, I did that
bananas.
math real wrong.
Oh yeah, no, I just trusted you. That was my bad.
That's zipped though. So unzipped, it
Ooh.
would be about. So it's about. That's where I went wrong in that math.
Ooh.
So it's about 2 gigabytes per part zipped. And actually, I was wrong. This one is in 32 parts. It was split across multiple posts hypothetically. So 32 parts, all 2 gigabytes. Then you unzip all of those parts as one file, and that's how big those.
That's one movie.
That's how big those real archival are. So it's unrealistic of people to individually expect others to do that. Or
Yeah.
Like, if somebody is capable of doing that work, hell yeah. But for sometimes it's just like, look, man, I'm trying to load this onto Internet Archive. It can only be so big for accessibility reasons. And I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
yeah, that's why hypothetically you can only even get those files in weird internet groups.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically, hi and welcome to Blank Body, is a Vampire the Masquerade V5 tabletop and horror podcast. I'm hypothetically Hunter, and I'm joined by...
Absolutely not, John. I'm something else entirely.
Mm-hmm. I'm Sarah. I guess I guess I'm scanned in. I don't know. I was trying to do an alliteration thing.
Sarah scanned
Scantron.
in.
You know, like the little bubble-in sheets you had to do for standardized testing that were a fucking nightmare. Oops.
I had fun with those.
Did you? How'd you have fun with those?
ADD gave me a task in between doing questions, is then I gotta like artistically fill in little bubbles.
I see.
It's a little like physical distraction from doing math or whatever. Abraham Lincoln, I will now perfectly fill in this circle. Next question.
I feel that, actually.
Oh my god.
Is a good
Except that I would get really bored about like a third of the way through the test. So I'd be like, okay, I've perfectly filled in 12 bubbles now. I'm done. Can I fill in something else?
Well,
then you try other patterns. You start
Mm.
going around the edge and working your way in, and then you start in the center working your way out, and then you go up and down, then left and right. You got to change it up,
You know, you gotta change things up on building a chronicle.
I guess.
But hi, we're kind of doing a mini series on like, so you want to play games?
Yeah,
Or
so
you
we
want to
talked.
run them even better.
Yeah, we talked about the basics of being an ST last episode, and it was very basic because, as Sarah said, pretty much anyone can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You already have the skills and the tools to do it. You just gotta
practice on making them better for you and your tables. But I promise you can do it. Do the thing.
I believe.
Art is accessible
I believe
already.
you could run a terrible first Chronicle, and your players will probably just have fun just being there and getting to be a character and rolling dice.
As we said, storytellers, much like drummers, really have a corner on the market of what the fuck actually gets done because there's not enough of them.
Yes.
But yeah, so for this part, we are discussing how to build and write a chronicle for your games. For folks that are new to running games, new to being storytellers in the storytelling system, and also veterans who are trying to convince your friends to maybe pick this up. That's part of where we're at with this little dive into building things. So hopefully this will be helpful, even if you don't run vampire, if you decide to run werewolf or hunter, or God forbid, play any system other than D&D.
Yeah.
Or D&D.
I mean, it would work for D&D, but
I will also say,
yeah.
if that's what your players want to play, and that's what your first Chronicle ends up being, there's absolutely no shame in that.
No shame,
game.
nothing wrong with that.
I'm literally running D&D right now. I only talk smack because sometimes it feels like that's all you get to talk about when you try and interact with the tabletop community.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fun game. It's fine for what it is.
Yeah.
I tend to run it and then watch my players go, wow, this is way more complicated than I thought, and then offer them any other game. Be like, see, it's so much simpler. See, there's not individual rules based on the class you thought sounded cool that you each have to memorize individually and can't help each other with.
I mean, there are some websites and things that let you run games in ways that are like a little bit easier tools-wise, but I think talking about tools will be the next step. Wink.
The next step.
But that's not where we're at right now. We're talking about building a game. Content warning, it would be regular World of Darkness and this podcast stuff, so mature content warning.
In general.
But there's nothing particularly spicy.
Probably not.
Unless we do what I did last episode, immediately start making abortion jokes.
Yeah.
It's like,
So
it shouldn't be bad immediately into the terrible content. Sorry, everyone. My bad. Sources for this episode, V5 Core Book, V5 Player's Guide, and the Gehenna War book. It's kind of what I'm limiting it to. As of record date time, those are the 3 books I would recommend for vampire that anybody is starting with. That's how much I like.
Those are some good ones.
That's how much I've really enjoyed the Gehenna War book.
I need to read it. I'm so far behind. I need to order some books because I really want to get caught up on Hunter and Werewolf.
Yes.
Especially because I'll be doing Hunter and Werewolf month again this year, so I should probably, have read
Well,
them.
there are some pre-order books that should be dropping soon. So if you want to wait until those are out and you get your mitts on them.
That's true. I feel like I figured we'd do them in the summer after Gen Con before Halloween. They're kind of behind the scenes. We kind of do those while Sarah's prepping for bigger side projects that we do. So I take over writing those episodes, and then she does something like the Halloween special.
Wink.
Yeah.
Don't talk it up too much. It's just going to cause expectations, and people are going to want me to put things into things, and...
Whoa,
you gotta charge extra for that.
That is a different kind of thing. That's a different kind of entertainment.
I'm not ready for the Blank Bodies OnlyFans account.
Though I did think about starting one and then just like it filming me just like making sandwiches.
Yeah, do it.
You know?
The feeders would love that.
Absolutely.
And that's why I decided not to.
You don't want to encourage that kind of behavior?
No.
Oh, God.
You don't want to get comments say like, yeah, make that sandwich, scrawny boy.
That's exactly what I don't want.
This man is too thin. You should eat more sandwiches.
Yeah. Put away that sandwich. Eat some cake.
It's not enough mayonnaise.
More mayonnaise.
If you want more
then
information...
it feels like they're getting so much mayonnaise out of that jar with a spoon.
I'm so scared. Anyways. So if you want more information on the basics for like some game stuff, we have talked about that in earlier episodes. If you go to episode 2, we talk about dice and the dice system for World of Darkness. We talk on episode 3 about like things you need for starting your game. So if you want to get like Baby Bat's first info, that's on episode 3. And then episode 5 is our first episode in our consent series where it talks about consent and player expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like if you got all those little tools together, it's a good little starter pack.
Yeah, and if your players are looking for good entry level information, those episodes would be good for them too. They should know the die and have a little idea of what's going on in the world of Vampire. Mm-hmm. And even when I'm playing a new game, you get handed like a 400-page book and you're like, here's the game. It's like, wow.
I'm not absorbing all of that in the first go.
Even if I read all of that, I am not reading all of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like that kid in school who was like in English class and like, all right, reading this book. And then they'd sit down and just read the whole book that you're going to spend the next 3 months on. They'd be like, all right, I'm done with that. I don't have to touch that again. But by the time they get to like chapter 4 in class, they're like, wait, what happened?
Oh, crap.
What color were the jars? Oh, shit.
I watched so many people do that when we were reading Les Mis in high school. It's very funny. For those who don't know, Les Mis is a really thick book.
Also very sad.
I never read that one. My friend was trying to start a book group, but I told him that I would only join if they did Finnegan's Wake, and then they didn't invite me into the book club.
Oh, no! So
no one wants to read Finnegan's Wake with me.
Oh, that's sad.
It's probably the right decision, honestly, but...
Yeah, so, Chronicles. What the fuck is that? A chronicle is a series of stories connected together by a collection of characters and ongoing narratives.
Boop, boop, boop,
Yay.
boop.
Yeah.
AKA a game.
So in terms
Long
of World of Darkness terminology, a story is a full storyline with a beginning, middle, and climax. This is often a series of sessions, but may only require one session as a vignette. So a story is basically like a story arc. And a chronicle is a series of story arcs that are being done as part of a campaign.
So you might, if you were running a chronicle, this is getting into some more advanced things. Yes. But you might say, like, someone says, I want to put, 3 dots into building a warehouse on the outside of town. They go, okay, cool. We're going to stake those 3 dots until the end of this story. Mm-hmm. And that would be at the end of that arc, they get their 3 dots back.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they also get a warehouse.
And they have a warehouse.
Or they failed somehow and they don't get a warehouse.
Yeah, or they failed somehow and they get a warehouse, but they don't get their 3 dots back.
Yeah, or the warehouse is built different but wrong. There's a lot of options that can happen over the course of a story arc. And then also for a little terminology, a session is also called a chapter, and that is just a game session. And then a scene is a series of actions or interactions between a set of characters at a certain location. So you have a collection of scenes that make up a session. You have a collection of sessions that make up a story, and a collection of stories make up a chronicle.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
That is
makes
a turducken of how you build plot. You just keep putting things inside of other things.
I like to think of my games as like TV series. Sometimes a TV series only lasts one season, but the Chronicle is like the series.
Yeah.
And then the session is like an episode, and the scene is a scene like in a TV show. I think that's a good way to split
And
up
then,
in your head.
yeah, then a story is either like
A season.
the
or a
season,
story arc.
or if there's like a story arc within a season.
Yeah.
And then the Chronicle would be like all of the seasons put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be like X-Files, where like sometimes you sit down, you get in one session, you get through the whole story. Next time you guys sit down, new episode, new story. But sometimes there's episodes that interconnect, and a story could take 3 sessions to get through.
Yeah.
And then they all tie together with the same characters in the same setting, usually. But
You have a lot of options on how you weave all of those piece parts together. So I don't have any good guidelines on this is how you do that. I'm like, that is really dependent on your play style and your players and the speed of y'all's ADHD. So that is you feel that out in your own internal vibes. Anywho, so how do I plan a Chronicle of Vampire the Masquerade, given now I know what the fuck a Chronicle is? Basically, in the beginning, you'll have some sort of fucking idea.
In the beginning,
Dun, dun, dun.
there was an idea.
I would usually suggest when people are like, I want to run a Chronicle for my friends. What do I do? I'm like, find some inspo.
Go watch a movie.
Yes.
Or read a book.
This can come from, as we've said, movies. There's also comics. You can find books and novels, YouTube videos, travel vlogs, history documentaries. Literally anything can become the inspiration for your Chronicle.
the news,
I
True
pull things from
crime.
the news a lot.
stories,
Video games.
video games, yeah.
Yeah, I would say,
Watching people run around downtown.
yeah.
I love watching people and turning their lives into games for my entertainment.
Look, sometimes when you're people watching, you see some wild ass like interactions. It can be inspiring. For
Get
things.
drunk with your friends and start just giving voices to NPCs in the background, and then just turn that into a haha, but what if? Sorry, that's the thing I used to do with John all the time when we were roommates, is he would be playing Skyrim or something for hours, and I would get drunk and bored, and I would just start giving little voices and backstories to the NPCs he was slaughtering.
Hey, Steve. How's your girl? What was her name? Oh, yeah, Debbie. She's good. Oh, she's been getting a little bit of trouble at school.
Steve?
Steve, where'd you go? Steve, are you okay, Steve?
Oh no, Steve's dead. Oh god! Yeah, that was just hours of that.
When I first started smoking weed in high school with my friends, we would watch TV, but we'd mute the TV or put music on, and then we'd just try and guess what they were saying. And it was always shows we'd never seen, just like whatever random station we found.
That's fun.
That was kind of the same thing.
Yeah. And also, a thing I had also written down as a suggestion is if you're really struggling to be like, I don't know what to do, go to a used bookstore, wander around, you just pick up random shit. Eventually you'll find something that goes, oh, this is neat.
Literally judge the books by their cover. Just find a cover that you're like, oh, badass.
I know
Yeah.
what this
Go
is
for it.
about.
Like, I'm gonna flip through this. Because, you could also do the same thing with, like, a local library. Just, like, pop your head in there and just be like, there's a random assemblage of things I don't normally interact with every day. I'm gonna pick this one because the cover's purple. I like purple. What's in here? This is cool.
Yeah.
It
Sometimes you go, wow, that sucked. But that's okay. That's just playing the lottery with media.
And if you are also just like kind of nervous because you're like, I'm super new at this and I'm not confident as a writer, that is okay, baby bat. There are several free and paid modules within V5 that can be used as springboards. If you go to the Renegade page, there's a bunch of free and paid modules that some of them have extra tools and bits and bobs. Some of them are like, it's just the book. Some of them have pre-gen characters in them. Some of them have NPC cards. Some of them have enemies cards that you can just randomize shit and use those tools for later.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So depending on how you're confident, not confident. I also
I've
yes.
had storytellers like run, a module, and then while they're running the module, they'll write for their story arc. When their story arc is over, they'll pop in another module and kind of just shift stuff to work in the setting they're in.
Yeah, just being like, sometimes the modules are handy for when you're trying to like plan out a chronicle, because then you're like, okay, but what in this module are my players, like, latching onto? And you go, okay, I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to grab that, and use that as my inspo.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a fuckload of plot hooks pre-gened in a lot of the other vampire books. I was trying to limit this episode to just being the core book, the player's guide, and the Gehenna Wars book. Honestly, in the player's guide and the Gehenna Wars book, there's a lot of plot hooks.
Literally just the, like, little notes that they'll put in, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a little handwritten note that's stuck in the side of the page somewhere.
Yeah.
Almost all of those have tiny little plot hooks in
Yeah,
them. So,
like almost all the fluff that's in the core book, you can just go, springboard.
yep.
Yeah, and say this is your first vampire game, or first time playing any game, but you're already comfortable with a different game. A lot of times you can just convert those stories over too. When I was first testing out Hunter, they didn't have a lot of the pre-written adventures yet. I mean, there's ones in the books. I tend to not like to run adventures that are in a core book because people tend to read those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can always say, hey guys, please don't read this
Pages
section of the
X,
book.
Yeah.
I usually would just say don't read any of the pre-written adventures, because then if you say don't read this specific one, there's just a temptation to be like, I'm gonna read it.
What if
But
I were naughty?
but like if ST told me, he's like, please don't read the pre-written adventure in the back about the haunted porta potty, I'd be like, I'm reading that one. But
I mean, that haunted porta potty sounds awesome.
it's a weird one. It's in that Hunter core book, but it's not even really a joke. But
Hell yeah.
I took Call of Cthulhu Adventure. I think I've talked about it in more detail when we talked about on our Hunter episodes. But I literally just found an adventure in Call of Cthulhu with a vampire, moved the dates forward so it was modern, changed it to a VTM vampire instead of a Lovecraftian vampire, changed the cultists to ghouls, and I was done.
Yeah.
You had like an investigation, some combats. It was a fun time.
Yeah, and if you're somebody who either is coming into V5 from old system, or you have a friend that did, or you went to that used bookstore and you happen to find a couple old books in the secondhand gaming section, I have successfully grabbed modules from Old WAD and then just reskinned the stats for 5th ed, and they all ran just fine. I think the only caution I would have is the old system had this thing that I fucking hate where they would change the difficulty rating and the target number on the dice.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that, personally. I'm like, either have standard difficulties or standard target number. Usually standard target number is easier.
Mm-hmm.
So in those cases, I would say if you have a situation where they like upped the target number for some reason, I'm like, just add an extra difficulty dot or two.
Yeah.
I think that would be the only big thing I've really run into problems with.
Yeah, I think the only game I've really seen the opposite that I like would be like Call of Cthulhu, because it's a percentile. So say it based on your skill, so that it's constantly changing the target number because you're trying to roll at or under your skill number.
Yeah.
But you're always rolling 2d10.
Yeah.
So it's consistent. It's just your character has a 25% chance at succeeding at this. And then, like, exceptional successes are, like, if you're within the 10% of that number.
Yeah.
That's, like, the closest I've seen to a changing target number that didn't drive me insane.
Yeah.
I know this is a bit of a side tangent, but...
Yeah, well, it's something to consider sometimes when you're, like, converting shit from other systems.
Yeah, if you are converting, it is going to be a little bit more work than, honestly, just, like, making your own... I think it would almost be easier to ignore the numbers if it's from another system and kind of just take the vibe and the main plot and then just kind of retrofit Vampire onto it. And and then it'll be easier to set the difficulty for like a new party. Say you're doing starting base characters. You might not want to have comparable stats to that Lovecraftian monster at the end of the...
No. I will also throw out, on top of just the books having lots of little fluff things, the lore sheets. Yeah. Lore sheets have tons of plot inspo ideas because all of them are designed to integrate player characters into the bigger narrative of the World of Darkness in various ways. So if your player grabs a lore sheet, use it.
Yeah.
Or if there's a lore sheet that you find particularly interesting, write the cron based on that and then just give your players a free thing from that lore sheet. Don't worry about it, guys. It's fine. They're like, Sarah, why are you giving me this free 2-dot thing from the Gehenna Cult's lore sheet? Why do we all have this? I'm like, don't worry about it. It's fine. By the way, there's a meeting in a basement.
I'm going.
Well, I got that lore sheet. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the invite, obviously.
Yeah. in terms of updated mechanics for 5th ed, I fucking love the lore sheet system. It's really cool. It's kind of the equivalent to getting feats in D&D and Pathfinder, where some of the things the lore sheets let you do is get access to skills and abilities for slightly cheaper than what it would be standard.
Yeah,
but it gives you like plot negatives.
But it gives you like plot hooks or plot negatives, or oh, you escaped a Second Inquisition facility. You're descended from a really famous character in the meta plot.
You're really into fight clubs.
Really into fight clubs. Do you like drugs? Hell yeah, you do, kiddo. There's lots of options, and I know that there's folks in the community also making loads of lore sheets based off of like their chronicles, and then also just fan-made things from the wider World of Darkness that they're just like, I love this thing. It hasn't been officially published yet. Fuck it, I'm gonna make my own lore sheet.
There's that. And also, I think it's important to note, I think a lot of people get nervous about it, but fuck canon. Who cares if your story lines up with some book you haven't read? Like, if you just happen to have a random old vampire book from the 90s and you're like, wow, I like this character, I'm gonna update what they were doing to modern times, and then that's the challenge for my players, or that's what they're interacting with. And then like you realize, oh well, they published this other V5 book that mentions they're actually doing this, and I didn't read it till after we started. Who cares?
Well, it's like, okay, that was a rumor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, welcome to when the entire narrative is an unreliable narrator.
That too. I just think it's important to say, don't be afraid to go against something if it works better for your story or chronicle.
Golden rule: if you need to change it for your table, just go ahead and change it. It's fine.
Always.
It's fine.
You can always change it back.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is stopping you from...
Yeah, there's like one of those like, because I had to do that. So when we started playing 5th ed, well, I had pre-ordered the Chicago by Night book and I hadn't gotten it yet, but everybody was chomping at the bit to play. So I used a module to run a, hey, I know you guys are in Chicago, but you're getting sent to Indianapolis to go do this job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not knowing we were going to have more canon things set up for Indianapolis. So we're in Chicago, and then players are wanting to pull connections that they gained from Indianapolis from like the pre-start of the campaign. And I'm like, yeah, about that character. Some things have happened. Turns out Indianapolis is oops all ministry.
He's dead now.
He's not dead, but...
I think he had to leave the city.
Yeah, he had to flee.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's up here now. And they're like, oh, that's convenient. I'm like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
No other reason. So sometimes if you want to incorporate canon that gets published after you've already started, that can turn into its own narrative, like, oh, okay. Or you could choose to ignore it and go like, I see that thing. For this game, no. And as long as it's articulated to the players like, this is the canon, other people will talk to you about that, that's not happening here. And they go, oh, okay.
Yeah, as long as you communicate it, well, unless previously talked about, as long as you communicate that kind of thing beforehand. Because if if you have a player that's going into the game right off the bat, like, cool, I got into this like clan and I read everything there was to know about it so I could really play it well. And then you come in and they're like, well, actually, that's not how it's going to work. That can be disappointing.
Well, it's like, well, if they put in all that work to like, I really want to do this because I'm learning about the lore and I really like what's been written. And it's like, I can yes and that. You're going to be the weird one in your city. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Because I had not planned to run all the others like that. So you're just going to be the odd little guy.
Everyone's going to be like, wow, this guy's way out of date.
Like,
with
man,
what's going on.
Man, you really leaned into that. Okay, shit.
Or like, I heard people were doing that in other cities, but
that's not how it works here.
Are you from out of town? Are you new? Do you even go here? All right, so now that you've kind of got some inspo and you got a pile of ideas on what kind of chronicle you want to run, I would say a good way to kind of ground all those inspos is to pick a theme or a question of sorts that are going to be kind of explored in the chronicle. I think it's helpful to plan out the framework by having a few narrative themes or questions that the players can respond to throughout the game through the character actions and choices.
Yeah.
Can you give an example or two of these questions?
Oh my god. Yes. So things being like, what does family mean?
These very vague, like open concept kind of
almost
questions.
rhetorical things.
Right.
Themes of like power. What does that mean? Leadership, empathy, creativity. You can get really big and vague, or you can get kind of just like smaller with it if you so decide. Just being like, can vampires run a business ethically? It's like, can you guys do that?
Right.
No. You can get as heady or as fucking silly with that as you desire.
How far can friendship be stretched?
Yeah. And it's like
how powerful is the power of friendship?
That's true. It's truly the most powerful element, chronomancy.
No, it's radiation.
That's true, yeah. If we've discovered anything in World of Darkness, the most powerful force is, in fact, radiation. Horrifying. I would say picking themes and questions can kind of help set the tone of your chronicle. Because if you want the chronicle to be kind of more serious and ooky spooky, ask questions and have themes that are going to be ooky and spooky. If you want to have, like, emotional... just emotional damage with your friends, you're gonna have to ask questions that are big oofs. If you want the game to be kind of light and silly,
How hard is it for a vampire to make a pizza? That they can eat.
How many puttanescas does it take to change a light bulb?
How much blood would you have to use in the creation of the ingredients before it's edible to a vampire?
Yeah.
That'd be a wild chronicle. But you can cook a lot of stuff with blood, so...
It's true.
Yeah. If you want to get real sci-fi with it, where, there's the can man play God, and then you got vampires. Like, can vampires play God?
I mean... Can werewolves play God?
No.
Are werewolves God?
Yeah.
They're adjacent to a God,
Is it, in fact, okay to kiss the homies goodnight?
I really kind
That's
of
a Hunter
depends.
Chronicle,
That's
if I've ever heard one.
It's
Not
just
me, as in H5.
No, H5 Chronicle. It's just 4 Frank Castles and one Daredevil. That's the Hunter cell.
Ugh.
Oh no.
That would not work well, I don't.
No, you only need one. You only need one Frank and Matt. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been catching clips of the newest season of Daredevil, and I'm like, I don't want to get Disney Plus, but this looks really good.
Yar.
Yar.
As much as we've talked, I also think the Fantastic Four movie looks pretty damn good.
I saw that, and it actually looks really good.
It's a period piece. They use practical effects for the thing, so I'm already kind of... Yeah, so they originally were going to do CGI, and the actor was like, but I want to be the Thing. Make me a costume, or I'm not doing it.
Hell yes.
I bet, and I'm like, practical effects for days.
But I want to be the Thing.
Yeah, and just
yes.
the aesthetics I saw from the trailer, it's all very, like, mid-century modern.
Okay.
Like, very 60s. And I was like, yes.
Very cool.
This is good. I like it. And, yeah, I was like, I have never been excited for anything Fantastic Four ever. And I was like, damn it, you guys are going to make me...
The Fantastic Four kind of rule, at least in the comics.
The comics rule, but, like, in terms of, like, film and TV...
Probably the worst movies of all time.
Oh, yeah.
The cartoon was pretty wild.
Like the 60s cartoon?
No, the 90s one where... Oh, yeah. There's a crazy... This is a side tangent, but there's a crazy clip. I'm going to post it for our patrons in the chat. But the guy who was doing the voice for Johnny Blaze was also trying to start a rap career. And so there's a scene where he's supposed to be singing, like, a love song at, like, a Fantastic Four event. But he's like, here's my song, one of my songs.
And he just raps?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And actually, I'm drawing a blank on the guy who did the voice of him. I can look it up. But he was, like, pretty well known in Hollywood at the time because he, like, booked a lot of rap in that scene. And the movie Malibu's Most Wanted was partially inspired by him. Like, that character is based on the actor who did the voice of Johnny Blaze in the cartoon. Because he was just a white guy who was real into rap, and everyone was kind of like, this is weird.
Play that funky music, white boy, I guess. Let's go. So, basically, LA had their Nardwuar of rap just, like, wandering around in the 90s.
Yeah, kind of. Huh.
Good.
Neat.
Anyway, I was going to try and look up who did I can't remember who did the beat, but it's actually a pretty big... We're moving on. We're talking about how to run a chronicle. We're not talking about rap history right now.
But that's inspo.
Yeah, there's
like,
an inspo.
Malibu's
Most Wanted.
That guy's little story right there. I'm like, yeah, you could just write a little That could be a chronicle of like, yeah, a bunch of kindred own a music studio.
Yep.
And see where that goes. Inspo, enjoy.
You have your local like Malk that everybody has fallen in love with, that NPC that every chronicle has, right? He shows up one day and it was like, look, man, I was doing a voice acting gig and I was supposed to sing, but I wrote a song for it instead, and now they're really mad at me. I need to get out of town. Can you help?
Yeah, and then you look at the lyrics of the song and you go, oh, this is just a prophecy of Gehenna. Oh no!
You actually you actually wrapped a Gehenna prophecy in a children's cartoon. We do need to get you out of here.
Oh no, little buddy. No. But yeah. So on top of themes being able to help set the tone of your chronicle, themes can help players get an idea of the game that you're trying to run. So you're just like, hey, so one of the themes that I have for my game is loss. Single players can go, oh, it's gonna be real sad, ain't it? Oh,
I'm a bee bummed.
Fuck me up. Yeah, let's go. Sorry, a lot of players are very masochistic. Yeah. Where they're just like, it was like, why'd you hurt me? It's like, you asked me to. Do you want me to stop? No. No, I like the game. Here's a sandwich. It's a strange hobby we have. Also, answering or questioning the themes of the narrative can help steer the chronicle and guide the table, especially when they get lost in the weeds, because it's going to happen. We're all going to be like, I got really sidetracked by trying to save this little Malkavian guy who accidentally rapped a Gehenna prophecy during his voice acting gig. We all got really wrapped up in that. And it's like, hey guys, you're supposed to be like challenging the Primogen Council for being a bunch of like landlordy tyrannical fucksticks. And you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, we were doing the Malkavian thing because one of them owns the studio.
Yeah, then you can kind of like
switch it in there.
Yeah. It's a good way to help like keep a little bit of focus so the chronicle's not just like
essentially just a random like list of errands that people are doing. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people like those kind of games, and I don't think there's anything wrong with doing slice of life games. Honestly, I kind of love those.
Yeah.
Where it's a little slice of life game where it's like, is anything bad gonna happen? I'm like, yeah, at some point, but it's not super high drama. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot of just you being like, fuck, I got a parking ticket.
Vampires also live hundreds of thousands of years. They don't have to have major events happening every single night. Most of them would consider that poor strategy, to put it lightly. Yeah. If they're constantly making power moves, pretty much everyone in the city would take notice pretty quick. Even though your game needs to stay interesting and you just happen to have at least one session in game time per week, it's like, even that's kind of noticeable that you are a mover and shaker in this city if you're doing big noticeable things constantly.
Well, yeah, so those little things to keep in mind. I also would say, this is a thing that has always kicked me in the dick for years, so I highly, highly encourage this every time. Pick a notes system that works for you.
Yes, notes
from
are great.
The beginning. Whatever system you're going to use, pick in the beginning. Don't fuck yourself by being like, yeah, I'm just going to write this chronicle, and then you get like 4 or 5 sessions in, and you're like, I forgot so many things already, and people have given me so many ideas that I also forgot about those, and I forgot to follow up on things. Yeah, that sucks. It's stressful for me as an ST when I do that, and I feel like I'm letting down my players, and I don't like that. But yeah, as an ST, you'll be basically spinning a lot of plates, and so expecting yourself to just remember everything can quickly lead to a lot of frustrations with yourself and the players. Just figure out how you're going to write your notes. There's tons of ways to be taking notes. I'm not going to tell you which ones are the best. You do you, boo. But you can do, like, have just a physical notebook. You can do index cards. Those work for me pretty well. You can do flowcharts, Post-it notes. I've also done notebooks with just, like, I just whack Post-it notes on top of things and little like, some of my GM notebooks have looked fucking insane. There's also options where you can use a Google Doc. There's also, you can just have a Discord server where you just drop all the notes.
You just make one for yourself. Mm-hmm. You're the only person in it. Mm-hmm. You're good.
Yeah. You're like, I have my notes channel for me, and then I have notes channels for all the players so they can send me secret notes. Mm-hmm. Huzzah. I've also enjoyed the app Obsidian Note. Yes. It's free. The paid version lets you transfer notes from your phone to your desktop. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the only major thing that I'm aware of right now with it.
It also lets you have multiple vaults.
I can already do...
A vault is like a whole new file system.
I can do multiple vaults for free.
What?
Yeah.
Opening Obsidian Note.
Yeah, because on my desktop, I've got a vault for... the LARP that we all participate in, and then I have a vault that is my scheduling, planning, production vault for this project and other projects that I'm involved with, as well as like managing my school schedule. And there's also tons of YouTube videos that will show you how to do different types of like formatting within Obsidian Note, because Obsidian Note runs on like a true text system, so it's kind of like if all the info you put into the note, if the app ever goes down, you can have a true text file that you can transfer into any other program, which is kind of nice.
Very neat.
Cool.
But because of the way it's formatted, it's very open-ended on how you can take the notes and format everything. So I'd recommend, if you're going to use Obsidian Note, go poke around on YouTube and find a couple of formatting videos that will show you like how to set up the notes the way you want. But once you got that set up, it's great. There's also tons of free plugins that give extra things like calendars and little announcement things and calculators and like scheduling bots, and it's great. I recommend it. It's a good free tool.
Yay.
Yeah, if you are a digital note taker. Yeah. So also, second thing I super recommend at the start of every Chronicle, pick a way that you and your team and friends are going to have a communication.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last episode, but I think that's really important. That's something I've been struggling with my current game, is that there is not one platform that all my players use. And it's been really hard outside of like text messages to have a consistent conversation. Mm-hmm. So I've just been like copy pasting the same message to everyone individually, but it is a little difficult when it's like, all right, are we still playing? Are we still playing Saturday? Mm-hmm. Well, I'll make a post in the group chat for the 3 people who use Discord, and then I'll go over to this platform, and just like, all right,
this is a pain in the ass.
And then they always ask, well, what did they say? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, if you just used one platform, you would know, and I wouldn't have to be copying everyone's messages back and forth.
You should just start sending a link to the Discord every single time they ask that.
Or,
or to the other platform, whatever you prefer.
Some sort of group chat. That sounds bananas. Just you being like this weird digital raven going, yes, my lord, thank you for your message. I will now fly it over to the next township. Excuse me, my lord, I have the message from the other township. Could I get a reply, please? That's a pain in the ass. I fucking hate that for you. But yeah, your players are going to have questions, which is a good sign. That means they like the game and they're engaged. So you're going to want to make sure you have a way to talk to them, and they're also going to want to talk to each other.
Yes.
That's also a good sign. Also, everybody is going to have various spoons levels. Not to be Debbie Downer, but in these hashtag trying times, a lot of people are more stressed than normal. And thankfully, we are all better as a society about communicating about these things. And that is okay. I would say decide if you want to be available for questions all of the time as a storyteller, or if you want to maintain office hours. Because sometimes you get a player who is very excited, wants to talk to you all the time, has all these questions. I would say just for your spoons as a storyteller, make sure you communicate to your players if you're going to be like, hey, I work a 9 to 5 where I cannot be on my phone. So if you have any questions, do not expect a reply from me until after, 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Or, sometimes folks live in different time zones. And then, you get weirdos like me that are like, hi, I don't sleep during the nighttime. So I will be responding to everything at the crack of 3 a.m.
So you'll have something to look forward to in the morning.
Yeah, you'll have a little surprise of answers and replies. But yeah, and there's sometimes folks that are like working in big projects, so they don't have the time to be available to run game and or ask questions. Or you have players that are like having adulting things or families and whatever, and they can't respond or do games 24/7 and be available, and just make sure everybody is aware of that.
There also, I think that problem varies depending on the system too, and the type of game you're running too. So that's something to keep in mind when you're prepping too. How much in-between work you're going to need to do. Whereas something like most standard D&D campaigns, or like Call of Cthulhu, or something like that, where it's like an investigation, and it's like, well, if you don't know it yet, your character won't know it, so I don't need to answer these questions. Whereas something like Vampire, it's like, well, technically you're 100 years old and you've been around all these NPCs for a very long time. So it makes sense that you'd want to know what you know about all of these people. So depending on the setup and what's going on, there are games that are going to need more out-of-session information than others. Like my D&D campaign that's going on now, it's great because we played Microscope, so everyone helped build the world. So everyone already has the same base level of information. And then everyone's just, I'm excited to see what happens next.
There's like, fuck yeah, fresh info.
I barely know anything that they don't know, except what I'm planning for next session. And it's kind of weird to be like, so what's going to happen next time? I mean, everyone's always like, I'm excited for what's happening next time. But no one's like, so what are we going to fight? So it's very much, you can kind of, I think depending on how you design your game and your setup, you can kind of allow more or less of that if that's something you want or something you want to avoid. Like, let your players help you design your city. If they have that investment, they'll be more invested in it. They'll know enough about it that they won't have to constantly ask you questions.
Yeah, and if somebody's like, hey, I really want to do this thing, and you're like, sick, nasty, you know what? Give me a write-up of what you want, and I'll see if I make that work. And I'm like, okay, cool. They're just writing plot for me now. I can just stick that on the map. And I'm going to stick it on the map, and then I'm just going to stick one thing in there to just fuck with them.
Because that's what they're doing this for.
Yeah, free plot. But yeah, at least I found having a discussion with the group about just being open and honest about like, hey, this is the energy and or time investment I am able to put into this during game session and or out of game session is good. Because occasionally I've had games where there's been static due to some people expecting more or less effort than what was able to be given. And I feel like I was like, oh yeah, if we were just open about this from the beginning, we could have solved just so many problems. There's been a lot of just assumed expectations, and I'm like, that's not fun to do on either side of dynamics, so let's just not do that.
Yeah, like I personally try not to do a lot of out of session work. That just works best for me. I have insane amounts of ADD. Sometimes I don't write what's happening our next session till the day before. Sometimes I immediately have an idea and I'm writing it as we're all sitting there on note cards. So I just don't ever commit to doing any of that. It's kind of like a lot of times when people ask questions, it's like, hey, maybe we'll figure that out next game. That is also a valid answer. You don't have to answer questions. You can just say, find out in game, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want to know. Yeah. Look into it.
Yeah, like actually look into it at the game at the time that we designated for investigating things.
Yeah. Or if you like doing out of time or you want to use out of game session to take care of some of the more boring day-to-day stuff, say you are skipping time before sessions to hit major events, because like I said, it's a little goofy to have something insane happen every single night in a week.
Yeah.
So say you're doing time skip and you want to do like downtime in between session work, you can be like, all right, you guys have 2 weeks in between this and next session, in game time. What is your character going to be up to these next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
While we're waiting on X.
Which is why having the communication system planned out ahead of time comes in handy, because then you're like, players can coordinate with each other, being like, oh, during downtime, me and Steve are gonna get voice actor Malkavian a bus pass to get him the fuck out of the city. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Sounds good.
That sounds good. What else are y'all doing?
That is like the laziest way to get a guy who's blood hunted for a...
No one's gonna expect him to get on the bus!
That's true. I suppose.
Probably true.
No one's looking at the Greyhound bus.
I don't know. Some Nosferatu probably like lives in the station.
I didn't say this player character was smart.
Okay. All right.
They're just like, ain't nobody looking at the buses.
No one cares about bus?
All right, like, it's much easier to travel anonymously with the bus, and it's like, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And then if you want to fuck with your players further from that, next session, one of them gets a text message from, Gerald? Huh? Gerald. So
that's a fantasy-esque name there.
He is a Malkavian. Maybe he gave it to himself. Gerald, you get a text message and like, it's just of the bus on fire.
He's like, I made it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it's you!
What?
It's like, I got rid of the evidence. It's like, I didn't nobody.
No. The bus was not evidence. Thank you. You don't leave fingerprints, but unless you were blushing the entire... Anyway.
I got nervous. Craziness. So I would also say decide how you want to handle feedback, defrag time, and bleed. These things you want to have long hangout sessions after a session. Do you want to do a voice chat to discuss game stuff on a not game day? Is there a group chat? Do you want to do individual check-ins? Do you want to send a questionnaire to the group?
I've done all of these.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would say you can do multiple of these. It just depends on the vibe. If you have like a real chill session, you could just after the game be like, everyone having fun? Cool, we're done.
All right, cool. It's 2 a.m. I'm going to bed.
You have a session where a player is forced to kill their father/sire at the behest of the prince.
Probably gonna need a big yap session after.
Maybe have a little check-in with everyone afterwards.
Yeah.
This is going to be a flexible one. The questionnaire, I feel like, is better at the beginning or end.
Yeah, and there's some folks that like... I was trying to account for folks that like get nervous because they're like, I don't want to cause a fuss in front of my friends. So doing the after, like, DM or just like, hey, I sent you a Google form, and the Google form's just 2 questions, like, are you good? You sure?
Yeah, sure.
That would be insane. I don't know if I'd be like, oh, that's so nice that they reached out to me, or I'd be more like, why did they do a Google form for a question they could have texted me?
Like, that's insane. I'm like, I don't know.
Why'd they give me a 0 to 10 are you good rating?
And then a 0 to 10, are you sure? I don't know. I have thought about that because I found a TikTok and I thought this was very funny of a girl recounting she had gone on a date with a guy. The date was great. And then after the date, like an hour later, he sent her a Google form to review the date.
That's hilarious.
With the end going, would you like to go on a second date? And I was like, honestly,
it's kind of cute.
I'm kind of here for this. Because he was, like, genuinely asking feedback, like, did you feel safe on our date? Did you enjoy the food? Like, actually good questions.
Yeah.
Did I provide, like, proper, like, conversational engagement? Like, things like that. It was autistic as shit. But, like, wholesomely so.
I love it.
So I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know you and your group of friends, because this is a parasocial relationship. It is a one-way data stream. So, you know... but I feel like, you know, deciding as a storyteller as part of your chronicle, being like, okay, well, if we all have agreed we have like 4 hours of time, and I'm going to be writing a story where it's a bunch of silly things and then a heavy thing, on the heavy day, I need to plan that chronicle to be shorter, or I need to plan that game session to be shorter, so that they have more time afterwards.
Right.
So it's things that it's like, do you need to have it set in stone? No. There might be players that more enjoy I like the structure. There might be people that want it more loosey-goosey. I don't know your table. But These are things that I'm like, when you're planning a chronicle, please think about these. Because I've had people did not do that, and then everything was so.
And these are things that, definitely should be and could be covered in a session 0.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, hey, how do you guys want to defrag? How do you, like, if we have a heavy session, the dog dies. That's always a rough one.
That's always a bad day.
So, like, the dog dies. Do we need to have, like, hangouts afterward? Would you guys prefer to just, like, me send you some questions? What do you want to do?
Do you want to talk it out? Do you want to have brain floss and we just watch, like, a silly video afterwards?
Right.
And I've also have friends who are the opposite. The game itself might be fine, but it is social interaction, and some people, by the time of, like, you get together, you make some food, you chat, you play a 3-hour game, their social battery might just be low. The game they could have the best time of their life, and they're just like, I don't really want to talk right now. I need to go home and hang out with my cat. Like,
I will follow up like 2 days later going, hey, I had a question about da-da-da-da. And you're like, okay, perfect. This is why we had the group chat set up.
No. So that's more of a, should know your friends, and this might be a good way, an excuse to get to know them better and how they handle things if you don't. So
yeah. And then the third part of this, of things you should decide on the planning with the group, is fucking pick a calendar system. Jesus Christ, this is like the death nail of every group I've been in, is scheduling.
I refuse to plan.
So, I understand life gets in the way, and that causes a lot of games to fizzle out, but we can avoid that by agreeing on the fucking calendar.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't care what calendar you use, how you want to pick a day, time, slot. Is it weekly, bi-weekly, once a month? I don't know.
Okay, so you, as an ST, all right,
Yes.
you need to, if you are friends with your players, this will be easier. If you are, like, friends online with your players, this will be slightly harder. If these are, like, if this is a paid thing, you probably won't be able to do it. But... You've got 4 players. You go out, you buy 5 copies of the same kitten calendar. And then you fill it out and mail it to your friends. Say, this is our fucking VTM calendar. Put it up.
I like that's a kitten calendar specifically.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's fucking weird. You're going to be like, oh yeah, that fucking calendar.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to go. But yeah, I would say if everybody, make sure it's at least something that everyone agrees on, everyone has easy access to, and it can be easily updated to account for something going, I don't care if it's an app, it's a group chat, if you use a notification system. It's part of the reason I really like Discord, because there's an in-app notification that you can set the event of, game is this time. And then if you need to change it,
you can change it,
and then it'll give a notification going, hey, event is now this time, and you can do an @ to be like, by the way, so-and-so's car blew up
Yeah.
So game is getting moved.
Hi, guys.
It's John. It's usually John.
Yeah.
But I will say, since you are the storyteller, you are the game captain, so it is ultimately your responsibility to pick the day and time and to attempt to adjust things to accommodate the players as best you can.
There's that, and I will say it is difficult, but something I wish I've done more.
Mm-hmm.
As an ST, sometimes you may have to have a come to Jesus talk to a player where it's like, listen, everyone else has been wanting to get back into this game, but it's been 3 weeks and you keep doing other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to play this game, or can we play without you?
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple games that have died off that because we tried to accommodate one person, and then the game just never picked up again. And if we had just said, listen, we're going to keep playing, your character can come back when you're available, that game may have come to a more satisfying conclusion or continued longer.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who will commit to something, think they have the time, and then maybe they'll soft lose interest. Not enough to say, I don't want to do this, but enough to... Sometimes,
it's like they might not be interested in the game, but they don't want to, I don't want to upset my friends.
It could be that, or it could be something that's like, it's fine. It's an excuse to hang out with my friends, and I kind of have fun, but I don't know, me and my wife would rather go see this movie this weekend. That sounds fun. Oh yeah, but my sister wanted to go get dinner with us and the kids, and I'd rather do that. And it just slowly kind of fades from their priority list, and sometimes you just have to confront them and say, hey, is this something you're still interested in?
If not, that's okay.
If not, it's totally fine, but it's something we want to keep doing.
Yeah, so. That's a responsibility of being the game captain.
And also,
captain.
Look, we're friends. We can find something else we can do together some other day or time.
It's like, hey, man, if you don't have time for the vampire game, that's chill. Your guy, we can just, he can just be off on the side doing NPC. I pick up a box, move the box, put it down until you come back. No worries. But, we're still doing movie nights on Fridays. Do you want to come to movie night?
Right.
Yeah, something simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. You can be really soft about it. But, yeah, that is something that I think is the number one destroyer of games, and it's usually one or two people kind of just flaking out, and it's slowly destroying the game, so...
Yeah, and it's okay if you're like, hey, man, my life,
Yeah, it could literally be, completely unavoidable for them, too, so I don't think there needs to be any anger, emotion, or punishment tied to it, either. It's not that serious on either end, really. It's listen... I know you're moving, you just got in a relationship, that's really fun for you. I want you to experience that and have fun. We're not experiencing that at all, so we're going to keep pretending to be vampires.
Yeah, because I have so many people to do crimes against. So when you find vampire clock time, you can punch
Come back.
in.
Yeah.
Once you get her to read that book, once she's trapped, bring her on in with us. But
I hate my brain, because when I was like, all right, I can punch in vampire clock, my brain went, so the old timey cartoons where people would grab a time paper and punch in the clock.
That's how I clocked in for school.
Hell yeah. But instead of that, they just grab the paper and they bite it with their fangs to punch the holes, and then they put it back in the wall.
God.
I hate my brain. I just imagined that against my will.
I hate and love that at the same time.
It's so dumb.
Yes.
Anyway. Being a visual person sometimes really sucks.
I imagine the vampire doing that and then looking at the camera like a Flintstones character and be like, it's a living, and then the next vampire comes up and they bite that too.
Just a queue of people. The thin blood with the baby fangs flaws, just having to really go for it.
It's like, ah!
He just got a little force into it. Anyways, so those were three kind of the comms system, how you're communicating, make sure that's all together. And then other thing, as a storyteller, I think you need to definitely get sorted for yourself, that I definitely recommend for a Chronicle for planning, is figure out the setting with its own relationship map.
Mm-hmm.
This is a thing for you, not the players. I would say you and the players should definitely, at session 0, make a relationship map so you understand how everybody pieces together. You are going to have your own secret map.
Secret maps.
I would even say have the players make theirs first, and then you take that and you add to it.
Yeah.
You can even use a new color for the stuff that they can't see.
Yeah, there's multiple ways you can do this. I've definitely done I started piecing together, my secret map with, okay, so there's, the Primogen Council, there's, a couple of little factions, a bare bones thing, and then once I get the one from the players, I, really flesh that out. With okay, their relationship map, they've made connections with, these NPCs, I'm gonna pin them here, I'm gonna pin them here, I'm gonna do this. And then you have this whole framework that's like half been pre-built by the player's decisions. And then having that framework for yourself is really going to help you as a storyteller overlong, because you're going to occasionally run into players do something wacky. You have your secret map you can go back to. Sometimes your players are going to solve the problem way faster than you thought they were going to, which is always like, oh, cool, I'm proud of you guys. Fuck. What do I do now? You can go back to your secret map and just pluck something off of it, and you can just yeet that at them.
Cue the jar of piss.
Yes. I will say, for your
Why'd you look at me when you said jar of piss?
Because that is the encounter in my life that was ruined quickly and creatively. Efficiently and creatively. Okay.
For those who have not heard the story.
Viewers, listeners, ear viewers. Here's a quick story. We were playing D&D 2nd Ed. It was like Hunter's, one of his first serious games of D&D. Mm-hmm. He's playing a gnome. And the party gets... And a thief, yes.
A gnome thief.
A gnome thief. So the party gets a very good idea. It's a very dark, dimly lit cavern with a spooky chanting in the end of a corridor or whatever. And they're like, hey, let's just go back down this hall and collect all the torches and then tape them together or tie them together and throw them in and cast effect fire to make them like a flashbang. And I'm like, okay, killer, yeah. Do that. Well, this wizard dude has Orb of Darkness. Mm-hmm. He puts it on top of that. Cool. Well, Hunter here goes, I'm going to hide in the Orb of Darkness. And I'm like, you can't see. He's like, I've got dark vision. I'm like, magical darkness, my friend. I'm sorry. And he goes, I put my head out of it. I'm like, hell yeah. Okay.
You're in the magical darkness except for your head.
Yep. Okay. I'll give you cover. Sure. Mm-hmm. So then, there's a cauldron. There's people, trying to fight them. And there's people doing a ritual. And then a creepy hand starts coming out of the cauldron. They're going to summon a monster. And Hunter's like, well, I know that rituals need components, like specific ones. Earlier, I didn't want to leave any marks and evidence of me being there when I peed in the corner, so I put it in a jar. Do you remember that? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I have it. I want to throw the pee. I said, what? He goes, I'm going to throw the pee. I'm like, okay,
okay, pause real quick, because he's a gnome.
Yes.
So that means he's got a little jar.
Yes.
Like a little gnome-sized jar. For his little gnome-sized pee. Continue on.
I'm like, all right, buddy, but it's a pretty rough throw. You're really far out. You're gonna have to roll pretty high. He's like, yeah, okay. Rolls crits.
Natural 20s.
Nat 20. I'm like, okay, well, you made it. And the hand crumbles back into the cauldron. That was the boss fight. Then I think they just kicked the shit out of the wizard, and it was kind of the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was still a tough fight. I think you buffed the wizard a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of was like, all right, I'll give him a few extra spell slots real fast.
See, that is a successful use of a yes and then a no but. Go back to our most recently previous episode for more details about that.
Yeah.
I will say for your secret map, you can do the relationship map with the little pointy arrows like it's described in the core book. Mm-hmm. You can also use just a real city map and then be like, so this faction is here and this is here, and kind of red Pepe stringboard it. Mm-hmm. You can also just make up your own city map. There's lots of tutorials for making up cities that are for fantasy. Mm-hmm.
But then if you make the dirt paths concrete and you make the tavern like a cement building.
Like a bar.
Or a bar, yeah. Ta-dam!
Ta-dam!
Ye Olde Theater is now like an art museum.
Yeah. So there's tons of resources that are at your disposal that you could use for whatever your secret map is, but I definitely recommend if you're building a Chronicle and you want this to last, decide how you're taking your notes, decide how you're doing the communications, and have a fucking secret map for yourself. Because then, those things in your little tool belt, you're strapped in. So your next step after you've got your tool belt together is establishing player characters.
Really?
Yes.
Not that difficult of a step. I don't feel like. I mean, it can be if your players are very unsure of what they want to do, or they're nervous, or they're new.
Well, it's also just getting players, because I've got
that could be tough.
There's usually the problem in the tabletop space where you have a bunch of people that want to play and there's no ST, and then you have storytellers like, I have all these ideas, I don't know who to throw them at.
Yeah.
So since we're talking on the storyteller side of things, we're dealing with that problem.
Let's go.
So if you're new at this and you're like, I have all these ideas, I got my tools, I'm ready to go. I would recommend typically for getting players, you're going to use your friends.
Yeah.
And you're going to discuss player character stuff at session 0.
Yeah.
So, I would say use session 0 as a way to do your vibe check for your group, build characters, confirm what all your comfies and icks are, and also figure out how you're going to do your comms and your calendar and plot elements that are of interest.
If that seems like too much to put in one session 0, there can be a session 0 and then a session 0.5. 2.
Yeah.
Electric session 0 Lou.
I do tend to do that. I do tend to do a 2-part session 0 where session 0 is like, all right, what kind of game do we want to play? Vibe check, green light, yellow light, red lights, figure out that kind of stuff. And then once characters have all that in mind, have them think about it next time. We actually build the characters and figure out what people are going to play and kind of give people time to think on it once they have okay, so I know kind of what we're doing, where the city is, what the vibe is going to be. They can then take that and kind of make a character based on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's also really good if, you as a storyteller, you're like, okay, well, in this city that I'm running, Giovanni are, banned, as in you walk in and you're blood hunted. Your players might want to know that.
Yeah.
Because if one of them is, looking at the Giovanni hand, page...
I'm this seems really cool.
Really
I would
neat.
love to be a spooky spaghetti.
Exactly. And then you're like, well, you're going to be blood hunted from the moment you walk in the city.
Is that something you want to do?
Right.
And some people are like, you mean I get to be secret spooky spaghetti? I'm like, yeah, bro.
Yeah,
is that what you want to do? Sure.
Yeah.
We'll just put a little Ventru pin on you and be like, it's a Ventru, huh?
Yeah, look at it.
Look at him.
He likes money.
Man, you're very picky on who you feed on. They're like, yeah, don't worry about it.
And that's kind of their Ventru problem too. So you're good.
So yeah, there you go. I would also say during your little session 0 thing that gets overlooked, I have found a lot in the community, is decide if this is a new coterie or an existing coterie. I would say if this is a new coterie and you want to explore the building of the coterie and that's the first story arc of your chronicle, cool, that's a lot of plot. If you want to be pre-existing coterie, because I'll be honest, I'm tired of watching or participating in killing Uncle Ben. It's I know Martha Wayne gets shot. I know. I'm tired of these intro stories. I want to get going. Let's go. So if you do that, I think Hunter's model for session 0, part 1, part 2 is good, because then you can be like, okay, here's the vibe. We've decided we want to be a pre-existing coterie. That gives your players some times to chitty chat in the group chat. Who knows what and who's interested in what, and share little details and plots and things, so that when you come back to session 0.2, you can go, okay, you guys, we've finished building your characters. You guys have plotted how we know each other, so we're going to build this relationship map, and then we're going to go through the steps of building a coterie, which we have an episode about building coteries in the backlog, if you want to check that out.
You probably should.
Probably should.
It would be good for you to do.
And if your players are going to take the time to actually, build out a coterie outside of the rules for building your coterie pools and whatnot, give them a couple extra goodies.
Yeah.
And then you can take those extra goodies of, not only have they done a relationship map, they've built a coterie pool.
Neat.
I'm going to take those and put that on my secret map and fuck them with it later.
Yay!
It's fine. Yeah. So basically, once these PCs are established with or without their coterie bonus things, that is the framework of your Chronicle right there. It almost half writes itself.
And I mentioned this earlier, but
Yeah.
if you decide that, hey, we are pre-established, we've been here, we've been doing stuff, that would be a good time to use something like Microscope or The Quiet
hell
Year
yeah.
that we've done. There's some Patreon episodes of that's actually playing those and setting up cities using those rules. So if you're interested in that, that's something you can check out. But that's a quick way to get through a large amount of time, whether it be a year or a decade or however much time, quickly as a group. So then, again, you're all on the same page. You could even use something like Fiasco. I've looked into doing an episode on using Fiasco for Vampire
Maybe after we
or
finish
Hunter.
the Kindred the Embraced run through.
Yeah.
By the way, if you pay for Patreon, we are doing a deep dive review of Kindred the Embraced. Give us money to listen to us talk about a cheesy show from the 90s. Anyways, Hunter,
It's actually great. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, no, we could maybe do Fiasco run after Kindred the Embrace.
Yeah, I'll put it on the poll. I feel like
Hell yeah.
they voted for the big one, so they're definitely going to be deserving a poll after we actually finish Kindred the
our
Embraced.
lovely patrons deserve so many polls. Polls for days.
Damn.
Damn, girl. You got that poll on you? Shit.
I'd like to vote, please.
I, too, would also like to vote.
Too bad!
I'm not married. They can't take it from me. Fuck you. I've had the same name the whole time. I hate it. No, I really don't care about my name. It's just, unfortunately, my surname, while it's got a Germanic origin, is also a very common Chinese last name. So I've had a lot of people, because I live in the American Midwest, come up and lean into my face. Like, I can feel them doing that line from King of the Hill of, are you Chinese or Japanese? And I'm like, neither. Also, why do you care? This is awkward on so many levels.
Yeah.
It's like, do you have an Asian stepdad? No! Why do you care? Also.
Trying to get to know you.
I don't know you like that.
Why would
like,
you take your stepdad's last name?
Sometimes that happens in, like, blended families, which
That's
is
fair.
fine, but, like, I don't know, man. I don't care if it's friends asking me these questions, but it's never my friends, because I hang out with chill people who don't give a fuck about shit like that. It's always some random-ass motherfucker
Trying to order a coffee.
like, order a coffee, or, like, I'm just existing as a body in a place, doing a thing, and they're just, like, looking at me like, where's the rest of you? And I'm like, what is this energy? I'm just like, you're just looking for a reason, and I don't understand. Anyways, it was a massive sidetrack. Where was I? Yes. So, your players, you've done your little toolkit setup, the players gave you a bunch of stuff, you've got your framework. Basically, the narrative of your chronicle should focus upon the players. I know this should go without saying, but I have been in Chronicles where the storyteller is a writer, and they love writing, and they will tell me a story, and the story is good, but I'm not really playing.
Yup.
That happens now and again, so I will occasionally have to give the caveat, if you're storytelling, you're supposed to be interacting with your players and telling the story, a narrative of your player characters.
Sometimes, I will say, sometimes, if you have too many ideas, it might be better as a book.
Which is great. Hell yeah, we support writing. It's a good art form.
But that is also something, if you're setting up a Chronicle, to keep in mind. You should not have a full arc of what's going to happen pre-planned, because your players will immediately go in a new direction, and you can have, like, some ideas of where the story might go. Plot points, things you think are going to happen, things that you might want to throw at them, obstacles, that sort of thing. But if you're, like, start writing details, like, this is the speech that this character is going to give in episode 5 after my players do this, it might be like, okay, pull back a little bit.
It's like, I'm not saying don't have the monologue in the pocket, but be prepared for that monologue to happen way sooner or way later than whenever the fuck you think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or really change.
Or, you might need a pivot, and that's okay. That's where the improv skills come in, as we discussed in the other episode.
Yeah.
And if you have that monologue ready and then your players decide to just nuke that character for whatever reason before
with a little jar of gnome piss.
Yeah, with a little jar of gnome piss, you can just, like, take that monologue and be like, well, this was supposed to be for old Stevenstein to yell at them, but he's dead now. So I guess the La Sombra over here, Father Schmickles.
Father Schmickles. Oh, God.
Father Schmickles, that it'll be his monologue now. Just because, like, something changes doesn't mean you have to throw it out.
Yeah. No. I do recommend DM storyteller pro tip. I have binders that I just write ideas in and I save them, and they're just kind of evergreen content that I can just grab. I highly recommend doing that, because it's like, it's a bummer to be like, I have this creative idea, I'd love to use it, and then it's just like nothing comes up, and I'm like, don't throw it away, just shelve it, and then you can go, wait a second, flip.
This works perfect.
And it's also a fun thing to have that at the table, because it scares the shit out of players when you go, I have a thing, and you start flipping through this binder, this tome, this hefty, dusty
Make sure to let
tome.
it, like, hit the table.
Yeah, you can use it as a storytelling
effect.
prop, because then everyone goes, oh no, you're digging into the deep lore, and you're like, yeah, you fucked up. They didn't really, you're just fine. Yeah. That's how you build tension.
Yeah.
All STs need binders full of women.
Hell yeah. Fuck off.
Oh, no.
I mean, yes, but no. But yeah, build plot points for the story based on things that have actually been written down on your player character sheets. Because, goddammit, they're like, I want to spend the dots on this. Fucking use it.
Yes. Or if they spend the dots on it and then in like, so many sessions that it hasn't been come up or it's not really been interacted with, you could also offer them to be like, hey, would you like to move those dots to something else maybe?
Yeah, that's the thing I've kind of free ruled is like if a player puts dots into things, because sometimes you get into a game and you don't really know what the character's going to be until you activated it. So I usually am like 5 or 6 sessions in, I'll just offer the players like, hey, if you have any dots that you haven't used and you don't feel like fit your character based on how you're playing them, if you want to trade it out for something of equal value, that's cool, just DM me.
Yeah.
But there's also, as players, it's like, hey, just because you put dots in things doesn't mean every situation's going to use all of your dots.
For sure.
And you can roleplay characters that, like, you have dots in a thing, and then you're just like, man, it's really weird that I, the businessman, keep ending up in sewers. That's strange. Can we stop doing this?
Can we please stop going in the sewers,
insert scene from Johnny Mnemonic where Keanu Reeves is standing on the pile of garbage screaming how he just wants room service. Like, that's a great character moment. You can utilize that.
Yes.
But in terms of prepping a chronicle and various stories and narratives, for your social characters, they need places that they can show off and flirt and gossip and do the schmoozing thing. If you have combat characters, they're gonna need to fight things.
Yeah.
If you have academic characters, they need to be given puzzles, research, and mysteries to solve. I know that sounds really basic, because it is, and sometimes it's like, okay, well, you have a party that's mostly combat characters, and then you got one nerd.
Right.
Hi, it's me. Usually I'm the one nerd.
Fucking slowing us down.
I just pick my ass up. It's fine. You can carry me while I solve this puzzle.
Fine.
That's also...
Yeet.
That's also a bit of a... That's also a bit of a session 0 thing.
Yeah.
I know we've joked and said, but like certain STs prefer certain types of games, and if that's you, tell your players. If you're an ST who doesn't like long combat scenes or doesn't like to focus on combat, or maybe combat just you don't plan on it coming much at all, tell your players so you don't have a barbarian, a fighter, and
a
paladin show up.
That's
and my own again, like it, even if that's like the horror, like in Werewolf we talk about, the horror is the only tool I have is hammers and none of my problems are nails. If that's what your game is, your players still need to know that, even if their characters don't.
Yeah.
If your theme is like you are pure beings of like violence and destruction and nothing being thrown at you can be taken on head first.
Just let them know. Or it's like, hey, you built a combat character and this is going to be a lot of like Elysium intrigue. I think that's great to have a combat character there, but maybe be like, hey, I know you built this guy to be like really big into fighting. Do you want to give him like any like academic knowledge on the history of like the martial art they picked up on? Do you want to like give him like a weird hobby no one expects? And it's like, yeah, like this Bruja's like just a really big brute guy, and then he's just like secretly really into writing like erotic fanfics. And he's got a handle, and he's got like 3 dots in fame on the internet for his fanfics. That's great. That's like, you give him a little something to be like, okay, you're here for kicking ass and taking names, but you got this one little thing.
You liked writing about licking ass. And
hell yeah.
Something with names. I don't know. I lost that one, but... licking ass and taking the names. Turns out he writes changeling fanfic. There you go.
There you go.
Makes sense.
Every time I eat someone's ass, they lose their identity.
Imagine getting rimmed so good you forgot who you are. It's insane. But yeah, then it's like, okay, well, your combat guy's got that, and it's like, okay, well, is there somebody in the Elysium that's like secretly a big fan of your work, and they're trying to get you to become a published like romance author, and they're trying to blackmail you into this, and you're like, no, I'm a tough guy, no one can know.
Yes.
Like, that's a whole lot of story and plot right there.
It's
you
misery.
can publish it under my name. I don't care. I just need it published.
Like,
okay?
the world needs to see.
There's some Toreador that is just
Look,
so
the horny fairy
it.
books are really popular right now. The time is now. The time is now. So, Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you could get guys that are like, okay, I really want to play a combat character, but you've given them a little something. Or they're like, okay, cool, the combat character is like really attached to a nerd in the party or the social butterfly, and their whole thing is I'm gonna protect this person. It's like, if you're writing a chronicle that's not gonna be super in line with the 3 categories that we've listed for the players, give them reasons to be involved elsewhere. And make sure that person's okay with, like, look, when the combat does happen, that is your spotlight. You've earned that. You've waited. It is your time now.
If a character is into a thing that's not a main focus of the Chronicle, but it's their character's main focus, when those things do come up, it does need to focus on them. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, listen, the rest of your party's getting their ass kicked, you need to, like, help everyone out in this big brawl. Like, you're not just fighting, you're protecting the others. A, it establishes their importance to everyone else. B, it gives them a moment where they can stand out when the last 3 sessions everyone else has been, like... smoozing at clubs and stuff, and they've been stumbling through it. Then they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember why Greg's here, to keep us alive."
Yeah, and like the story beats and Chronicles could be like, okay, you have this kind of fish out of water character where it's like, oh no, it's an Anarch Chronicle, and you've got this like fucking nerd, and they have to like learn how to fight, and the way they learn how to fight could be like, they're using their smarts to be like very tactful. They could like learn to fight by like MacGyvering, making little gadgets and weapons and shit. They could, make friends with some of the other, like, tough guys in the Anarch movement, and they learn how to, like, throw a punch properly. It's like, their stats aren't as good as everybody else, but they can do it. Like, those are all completely valid stories, so. But, yeah, just make sure you're writing beats and plans for people to do things based on the characters they fucking wrote. Woohoo. I would also say flesh out NPCs that have been generated by the PCs during character creation and put them on your secret map. This happens a lot where people are like, oh yeah, I made all these cool, like, I've written this, like, background, I've given loads of, like, different NPC options and da-da-da. And then they don't get utilized, like the touchstones. Devious ST smile. Like, guys, they're giving you weapons. Fucking use them.
Yeah.
Even if it's just an in-passing, like, oh yeah, you get a text message from so-and-so. That'll put the fear of God in a player so fast. Like, you don't have to hurt the touchstone. But now that they've been acknowledged in the narrative, they're just like, oh.
Like, hold on. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Or, okay, so here's an example from a game. One of the games I'm in, there was a bunch of touchstones got, like, activated, quote-unquote, all at the same time, for story reason. And then my character's touchstone, he hadn't really heard much from her in a while. And then we find Big Bad Guy, and he's sitting in a hidden room with her, with a gun to her head. And he's like, starts spouting off this stuff about my character. Well, he's, unfortunately, he's a bit of a creep and just, like, watches her do performances and has never introduced himself or anything like that, right?
Just a pure voyeur.
Yeah. She's a street performer. It's not that weird.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's a little weird.
It's toxic.
Yeah.
But he starts spouting off, and, my character's just, like, would not want her knowing that information. So he just shot him in the face. And then it was like, oh, cool, we could have gotten information from that guy.
We can't now.
His head has a hole in it. It's a shit.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying is using touchstones can push characters and players into doing things they normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Which is neat little character moments.
Yeah.
Like we were saying.
Yeah, basically, for good or ill, your players decide to put these poor bastards on their sheets.
Yeah.
Use them.
Sorry.
They're on the board. Use them. Use them! Basically, also to give the coterie even more reasons to work together, considering having the NPCs know each other for various reasons. Yes. It is a small world after all.
Weirdly, yeah.
Yeah. Lots of people are kind of networked in ways that you're not going to expect. And you can definitely weaponize that in ways that are very funny, where you're just like, hey, what if I had these 2 touchstones both go to the same pottery class? Like, what? And like, yeah, just like, oh yeah, I know so-and-so from da-da-da. And you're sitting there in the horror going, oh no.
They talk to each other. they hang out.
Yeah, and you could just be like, and based on how the players engage with that, they go, haha, that's kind of funny. And you're like, yeah, it's funny. I'm gonna make that way more nefarious now.
Yeah.
And then if they go stress, like, oh no. the paranoid player will spout out all the things they're stressed out about, and you go, ah, yes, good, more plot.
Thank you.
Yes, these are tasty fear. I would say also, big thing that will help as a tool, list out your player character's goals, tenets, and convictions somewhere within easy grasp. That is a tool I have made for myself as a little table sheet. I guess I could make a free use version of that and put that out in the freebies folder. It's been super helpful because I also have the ADHD and forget what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
So this cheat sheet will help you plan out what scenarios to throw at your players in every given session. So this table should include their ambitions and desires. These are what will drive your narrative. Consider if working towards these goals goes towards answering a question around the themes that you had planned from the Chronicle. It helps to drive the narrative if the things that the characters are interested in go towards or fight against the themes and questions that you planned for your Chronicle. Story writing.
Writing.
You can have tension based on, like, I'm going to fight the theme, or what if I explored the theme? Wow. These will cause the world around the PCs to become even more difficult on their own, maybe? These could also cause reactions that won't show up until later in the narrative. So, using ambitions and desires as a way to be like, okay, so these are the things that the players should be caring about. I'm going to keep trying to make sure to steer towards those things, so having those little notes helps.
If you are bad at, like me, remembering, like, I don't like to play favorites with individual players / characters, but you're kind of bad at remembering. Oh, well, we went into Jason's backstory, but we haven't really touched on Tiffany's yet. But I feel like maybe we're not. That can be something you plan, even. Say you have 4 players. All right, well, we'll try and aim to get this through this story in 6 sessions. We'll have an intro, and then we'll do 4 sessions, where each session we kind of focus on a different player and how their ambitions and desires tie into this bigger plot I have. And then we'll have a wrap-up session. That can be a really easy way to map out your entire Chronicle. There you go.
Yeah, it's like you wrapped up that entire storyline, and then the Chronicle can go wider from there if you so desire. So, hell yeah.
That could be the story. That could be season 1. And then season 2, just do the characters in a different order. Because, unfortunately, the player who's focused on episode 2, session 2, whatever, that will probably carry forward into the later ones, whereas the character who's not getting touched until session 5 might not have feel as much. They might not affect the plot, so you'll either want to focus on them more later or give them a bigger thing. Like, their is more important. Like, yes, we've been working with Jason since episode 2 on how he ties into the plot, but holy shit.
Yeah, the big drop of things that we gave on Tiffany on episode 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of balanced things. Honestly, looking at television writing and how things are planned out, television or comic books, I find, tend to be really good on if you're uncomfortable or uncertain on how you're planning out narrative beats for a Chronicle. Those are kind of good little frameworks to borrow from. But, yeah, so... But in the moment, if you're, like, running sessions or you're at home trying to plan out the Chronicle or the story beats more, having that cheat sheet's good to be like, okay, the focus is... Jason cares about X, Tiffany cares about Y, and you can just constantly steer things towards those. Another thing to also keep in mind on this cheat sheet, I think, would be Chronicle tenets. These can drive your narrative, but will most likely raise or lower tension. These should either help or hinder player character goals and have effects on the coterie. So the Chronicle tenets, for those who remember, is the moral code that the entire coterie has agreed will be a focus for the plot. These can be literally the themes for the Chronicle, or relate to, like, the question you're trying to drive and get into themes and tones and, motifs that you all care about. So those should be something that you constantly are trying to, like, steer narrative towards, to be like, okay, well, if we're not hitting ambitions and desires straight away because it doesn't make sense in this moment, I could probably steer them towards something that will either threaten or embiggen the Chronicle tenant. Embiggen. I'm good with the words. It is.
Sorry.
Also, I would put on the cheat sheet all of the players' convictions, like their personal little tenets. These can drive your narrative, but will most likely raise or lower tension. You can use these in the moments of, like, hey, your characters have agreed to go take on this job, but you realize, looking at your convictions, oh, the job involves doing a bad thing that, Tiffany's against. You as a storyteller moment go like, hey, you've all agreed to do this job. Tiffany, how do you feel about this job?
Right.
And that can be a good way to mix and match focus too. Like, yes, this individual job we could be doing it to help Jason work towards his ambition.
Yeah.
But, maybe Tiffany doesn't feel great about it. We're not going to dive into Tiffany's story directly until, like, session 4 or 5. But, oh, look, she's already, like, getting a focus in his story because it kind of does not feel good for her character to be doing this. And so that way you can make everyone kind of have their side moments, too.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of fun as a storyteller to, like, when you have the list out of everybody's personal convictions, creating narrative tension or cohesion based on, like, okay, these two characters have convictions that align really well, but they don't talk to each other too much. So you can kind of, like, set things up to make them go both point at each other and go, yeah.
That's actually a good point.
That guy should die.
He is a dick.
He is a dick. Or, there's players that might have convictions that conflict entirely. And, if player A has a certain conviction and they make a very definitive statement, it might be worth as a storyteller to go, hey, player B, your beast is weirdly comfortable with this, but you feel uncomfy. Do you have a reaction to this? And depending on what player A is doing, that might be okay, player B, you've agreed to go along with what player A is doing, and this goes against your personal conviction. You're going to have to take a stand, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, you using those things to build narrative things in the plot and just have those as part of your bullet points, I feel like is good. An easy plot that you don't have to put a lot of brain thoughts in because you're like, oh, this is already on my chart. Cool.
Yeah.
I have these pieces. I can go click like Lego bricks and then just watch my friends yell at each other.
Yeah.
For fun and profit. The last thing I would put on this cheat sheet is clan compulsions. I find this to be helpful to have on hand for when beasts come into play because you have the 4 standard compulsions, but I think a lot of people really enjoy dealing with like their specific clan problems. So just having those as a cheat sheet is good, and also handy for when it comes up and a player's like, yeah, I want to really lean into like my specific clan problem, and now the game doesn't come to a screeching halt because you have to flip to that weird section in the back of the book where those all exist, where it's like, okay, it's just on the cheat sheet.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
Yeah. So I recommend the cheat sheet having ambitions, desires, chronicle tenets, convictions, and clan compulsions. Quick little reference guide you can just kind of stick on the top of your notes. Yeah. Super helpful. This is also a cheat sheet to allow you to calibrate scenes during sessions. If a player seems lost, throwing NPCs that may help or hinder achieving a goal can be a helpful yes and. Because sometimes, you get a little wallflower character or somebody's like not paying attention because ADHD or the phone or whatever. As long as nothing else important is happening to the unengaged player, you can go like, hey man, you've been hanging out on this dock and you see insert NPC just walk up to the edge of the wharf and yuck a bag and they walk away. And you can just go, what?
Well, that's what you saw.
That's what you saw. What do you want to do, bud? And they just go, oh shit. And then do they jump into the water to go get the bag? Do they go after their friend and go, hey, what the fuck? Do you just go, noted for later?
Yeah. Check.
That is a helpful thing with that. Also, the tenets and convictions can be used to help arbitrate scenes, to build tension, or dole out consequences for monstrous behavior. Because sometimes a thing will be happening, and you'll go, okay, guys, it's getting a little spicy. You all, for some reason, have agreed to do something that goes against the Chronicle attendant that you all agreed to do, so, do you guys actually want to do this and accept the consequences, or do you guys want to, think about this again for a moment?
Right.
And sometimes you get players like, yeah, I want to be fucked up, and you're like, okay, cool, here's your punishment. And sometimes a clan compulsion is just the right dramatic choice for a bestial failure, and just having that going, okay, cool, yeah, you're gonna have to re-roll so many times because of perfectionism, and you're just like, damn it. No. Speaking of no, I dropped my script. Anyways, and the final thing, at least for planning a chronicle, because chronicle's made up of little bits that build into bigger bits that build into bigger things.
Like Legos.
Yes, anding the things that Skipper and Hunter have said. I would highly recommend plan a vague direction. I'm not saying don't make plans, and I'm not saying don't write things out. It's just, I've had this happen when I was wee baby DM and storytellers. I got really excited and I wrote out all these things about various aspects of the game world, and it was shit my players were not interested in. So I had to shelve this half a novel I wrote and throw everything away to make sure I was running a game that my friends actually gave a fuck about.
Or you just write so much that it balloons past the scope of what a game could encompass. Even if your players are interested in what you're writing, sometimes you're writing an epic for a game that's the length of a short story.
Yeah.
Like, you can write far more than you'll ever get to, which means you can just run more games in that setting and then touch on that stuff later. Yeah. Maybe
throw that in your binder and just like, cool, I like these ideas, I'm gonna save them for later.
Everyone had fun, let's do season 2.
Hell yeah.
I got all these ideas already.
I got all these pizza coupons, let's go. But yeah, I would also say some STs also do enjoy writing a lot, and they enjoy planning and the journey, and players will just not engage in ways that you expected, and I find that to be kind of a pain in the ass. Or, you wrote a tract, and then the players are like, but what if I do this really creative thing? And I'm like, I don't want to tell you no for coming up with a cool idea. That's insane. So I found that as a storyteller to be just a pain in the ass to do all this, to spend hours doing prep and then not engaging with it. So to avoid that heartache, I don't fucking do that shit anymore. At least for running games. If players are interested in getting written out things or lore drops and kind of stuff, that's kind of more where Sarah enjoying prop making kicks in, because I love writing a little prop letter or a little note or something for people to open up at tables.
You do.
Or giving them out. It's fucking stupid. It's not stupid. I just enjoy crafting, and sometimes I'm like, it's now time to whip out the historical letter writing shit that I know about, and I'm gonna fold this as a Victorian note.
Yes,
and then give it to my players, and they're like, the fuck? You're Sarah, you got a wax seal? I'm like, yeah, I did. You're gonna open it?
It did come with this note, this other note, stained with tea to make it look nice and old.
One thing...
And it just says, don't break the seal. And you're like, are you going to break it?
One thing that I like to do, like I said, I'm currently running a D&D game for some friends. So what I did, part of that session 0, and we're coming up with characters, and I was like, all right, we've built this world together. We agreed we're going to play on it. What are we doing? Well, here's the setup. You are all in this town. You all, for whatever reason, come up with your own, want to go make it here. Tell me why.
Yeah.
But now I have A, and we'll call it Z. Everything in between there, the players are going to figure out. But I now know where we're starting, and I know where we're ending. And depending on what happens in between, I can prep and slowly start to add things to point Z that they have been building through step A, through their actions. So you're kind of writing and meeting them in the middle, where they're intentionally going towards a goal you've given them, and you've got the goal already set, and you're kind of pulling towards them with what you've done. You kind of write the last half of your chronicle while they're writing the first half. It's a very fun way to do it.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of road trip vampire games, so that won't be as physically yes, I'm quite literally drawing the map for them as they go.
I'm working on that.
I want my Bayou boy.
I've plans, you see. But anyways, did not mean to interrupt.
No.
I kind of piggybacking off of you, thing I've been doing, it's kind of similar. For purposes of explaineries, I have called it the ACBA system of writing Chronicles. ACBA is ACBBB.
ACBA.
So it's kind of a flow chart, but basically you players start at point A. The storyteller wants to get them to point C. Plan for 3 different path Bs that the players can take that will lead them to C. The players may take one path, they may switch to a different path, they may somehow decide to duct tape all 3 paths together, but by God, they're getting those paths. They're getting to C. They're going to C. C will happen.
It's going to happen.
And then I will try to give 3 offerings of well, you can go this way, or this way. And depending on the game, it will be presented by either I as a storyteller would be flat out okay, gang, you got these 3 options, or a couple of different options of oh yeah, you got these 2 options, and then somebody's like, hey, can I roll to do using my knowledge thing? I'm like, yeah, roll that. I'm like, there's a secret 3rd path. I usually plan 3. You can present 2, you can present 1, and then be like, by the way, you discovered a 2nd, and then by the way, this other NPC's giving you a 3rd. There's a lot of different ways this can be unveiled, but I find 3's a good sweet spot for directions to get to C. And, if the players decide to mangle it and Frankenstein to what if we just did all 3? And I'm like, you want to do? Oh, Jesus Christ, sure.
We really want to get C done, so we're gonna do all 3 plans,
But
just in case 1 and 2 fail.
Yeah, 1 and 2 fail, or they're just like, but what if I'm playing a scrapper character and I'm getting every dot of XP before we get to C? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Player actions, honestly, will generate a lot of plot. There's no need to really worry. You don't need to stress yourself with the pre-prep. You don't have to plan for every dialogue option that could possibly happen. You can't. There's no fucking way.
Nope.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, especially dialogue. Like, going back to that D&D game I'm running, because I kind of did a very similar thing as you're suggesting here. So they're all in the city of Dry Dock, which is a big transit travel town around the base of a mountain. And it's called Dry Dock because above it is kind of a big floating city run by artificers and mages.
Oh, hell yeah.
In the sky. And because it's a floating city, they have to worry about weight. So they were given a job where they're trying to get to the city. Well, they just happened to get offered a job with a traveling company. Well, they were given a test, though. They have to meet the lady who offered them the job at a bar up above in the city. But to get up there, they have to get a token or a sponsorship since they're not citizens. So it's like, all right, so you guys have 1 day to get sponsored and find your way up there. So what are you going to do? So I had a couple plans. Like, one, there's like a big boxing tournament. There's some fighty characters in a player. They might want to, let's do some combat to do it. They could always just fucking steal one. We got a thief in the party.
They always just do crime.
Hell yeah.
There's other things they could have just gone and done fucking physical labor if they wanted to. They could be, we'll do a hard day's work. We'll get up there.
It's like, hey, is there like a travel office in the city? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we're just gonna go do paperwork about it and just pay the fee to get the token. It's like, really?
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of what happened. Like, one of the players is like, yeah, I'll go for this boxing tournament. 2 of them actually are.
Hell yeah.
One of them was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go steal it. And another character's like, I'll help, but I'm actually already a citizen, so I'm just going to go fill out the paperwork. And then the fourth one who is helping with the boxing tournament is like, yeah, but I took the background where I'm actually a royal from another city, so I'll help you with the boxing tournament, but I'm just going to, you can have the token, and I'm to go stay at the nice hotel for the prize. I'm actually just going to go wave my royal and say, I'm actually here on business and I need to be up there tonight. Please let me up.
Hell yeah.
So,
oh my god.
Like, they did take 2 of the paths I planned. And then also 2 of them are just like, no, it's fine. They'll just let me up. I'm royalty. Or,
That's great.
I'm a citizen. Let's go do paperwork. But I'm going to help you guys do your fun thing, too.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? If a player had just told me, I'm not going to do any of this. I'm just going to go do paperwork. Or they'll just let me up. I'm royalty. And we're not engaging at all, I might say, well, I don't think that's going to work. You need to do a little bit of something. But because they're all like, you know what? I'm going to go box to get you up there. We're going to do this together. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to help you go and scout out all those businesses to see where we can steal this. Then I'll go do some paperwork. I was like, you know what? That's fine. You know what? You're all engaged. You're all doing something. You're all having fun. And your silly little simple plan can work because you're still engaged in the plot. And you're not like, I'm going to do paperwork, sits on my phone for 4 hours.
Yeah, you're going towards the end goal. So yeah. I will say the big folly of doing this kind of narrative writing is you're gonna have to make up some shit on the fly. This is where the notes come in handy. Write them down.
Yes, having session length preset is really nice too, because I will take notes. Like, they got the job, they were kind of talking to each other in character. It's their first session, they're kind of getting to know each other, feeling out their characters. They tend to spend more time doing that early on than later, but they talked, they figured out what they're doing, and they're like, all right, let's do these things. I was like, oh, well, we only have a half hour, so let's do some prep. Let's get some idea of how you want to do something. Me taking a lot of notes.
And then you're just like scribbling everything down, just like fuck.
Then I have 2 weeks because we're playing bi-weekly to say, well, this is all the stuff they said they're going to do. So now I have my next session. Basically, they told me what's going to happen. I just get to put all the barriers that are going to pop up and surprise them.
Yeah.
And then when they complete that, they can very excitedly go to point C that I've already written, which is the meeting at the bar.
Cool.
Upstairs.
Yeah.
Right.
And kind of doing this daisy chains it wonderfully, I find, because it's like, okay, so you've got from point A to point C, and then you're like, okay, what's point C? Get them to point E, and then you can kind of do the same thing with just, okay, that's all the little sessions that have done this little method. And then you're like, okay, so for the big chronicle, they start here at baby coterie. They just met each other. They're trying to make their way in this hard rockin' world. And the end, my end goal, I haven't told them this, the end of the story is they're gonna fight a Justicar.
Whew!
So to get them to that, they have all these paths they can take in between that are getting built up by...
They can either make more friends in the city that might be able to help them out. They might
Yeah.
be able to, get into some mischief that teaches them skills that can be helpful in that situation.
Yeah, they can just do crime.
Right. Lots and lots of crime.
They can make... Yeah, there's tons of ways to get them from A to C. And it's just the B line to get there. Haha. Jokes. The
Yes.
yeah, so you can kind of just like daisy chain and turducken these little path dot systems to get to where you need to go. Little example, at least it's a little bit more like VTM coded, because the D&D session, I'm like, perfect. Hell yeah. But VTM coded. So let's say your coterie owns a successful nightclub and they want to expand their holdings. And that's like, yep, that's our point A. Our point C is get more thing.
Let's do it.
So as a storyteller, if you want the coterie to discover that the prince is doing some fuck shit, that's your C. So if their desire is, we want more holding, we think getting more power is our C plot, or is our C dot. And you're as a storyteller like, no, the prince is doing fucked up shit. I'm getting you to the prince is doing fucked up shit. But you'll get your thing on the way. Yeah, but using their desire, weaponizing their want of more power, you go, okay, here are my 3 plots that I have, which is 1. B1. The coterie wheels and deals with the Primogen Council. There's a lot of intrigue and the secret gets revealed. Plot B. The coterie decides that they are little gangsters and start a turf war, and they end up directly in conflict with the prince. Plot B line 3. The coterie quietly plays this long con. Their skills gains the attention of an elder who pits them against the prince.
Oh, I like all 3.
Yeah, so depending on, the vibe of the coterie, you can do one, the other, all 3 at the same time.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. One can very well lead into the other.
Yeah. And then once the players have picked up a path, they decide the steps along the path that will go in the direction, and each of these steps could even just be a session of their own where they go, okay, cool, we're new, we're trying to build power, we're gonna go to Elysium and do a thing. Then they go, oh, that didn't go well, we don't like that. I guess we're gonna do crime now, so they were like, we're gonna go do thug shit, Tommy guns, and then that just goes to fuck. And then this elder shows up afterwards and goes, hey guys,
you look like you need some help.
You look like you need some help. Fancy that. I also don't like this man.
Now sit down, I have a story to tell you.
Yeah, and that's
1,000 years ago.
1,000 years ago, this guy stole $20.
Right.
Also...
Do you know what that would be in today's money?
Also, don't be afraid to let your players fail up to some extent, because otherwise, unless you're really just trying to play a grim, dark, miserable ass game, like Sarah said, they tried to wheel and deal, didn't work out. They tried to be gangsters, didn't work out. But, like I said, if your characters are just doing a lot to where, they're making moves every night, even if they don't work, people are gonna notice. Someone's gonna be like, they got moxie.
Yeah.
They got moxie.
That could, somebody in the coterie could have been like, I have this 4-dot mala, and that could just be the elder, and he's just been feeding them things. And then they're just like, you know what? Yeah, we are little badasses. They're gonna go do crime now. Or, they got a bunch of etiquette lessons and they're like, oh, by the way, I have the tea about this Primogen. You can use this as blackmail. And then they go and wheel and deal. And they're like, aha, success. But because they, dealt with that particular Primogen person have blackmailed them, they're now in a turf war. And now they're back to being little gangsters again.
Yay!
Yeah, so it's like you can use all 3 if you so desire, but, you don't have to. And...
Maybe your players change their mind.
Yeah.
Maybe they make this big plan and then things work so well on step 1 that they're like, well, maybe we can keep doing that. Or maybe we don't want to draw attention to us after we've made all these friends on the council. Maybe we shouldn't stir up a lot of combat in the city. Maybe instead we go do option D, where we do a bunch of sneaky wheeling and dealing with other people in the city for information.
Yeah, and then the elder shows up. You're back on C.
Yeah.
Aha!
It should be a back and forth, though. It should be, I have some ideas, and then my players respond to those ideas, and then I respond to their response.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot
even
of...
if your response is, well, I'd already planned for them to get to here eventually, so now I can drop that in.
Yeah, I think having a hybrid model of you have a couple of note cards of these are my plans, they're the bullet points of where I want them to go. I want to go here, I want to go from A to C, and then having a couple of little notes of like pre-plans is good because then that takes pressure off of you because you're like, all right, I already have this prepped, it's in the can, it's ready to go. I'm hyped. And then, but don't have it so structured that if the players do things, you have to be like, you can't. No.
Right.
That doesn't go with my plan.
It won't work.
And it's like, you can pivot things towards your plans, though. They're just like, I was like, hey, so I planned to them go to Elysium and they're going to go try and like schmooze up a Primogen council member. And they're just like, what if I firebombed Elysium? And it's like, hey, give me a politics roll just real quick. You know that the Scourge of the city was actually a bombs expert before he was embraced.
It's probably not going to work out too well.
It's going to be extremely difficult. Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Off we go.
Off we go, and then, you know,
that starts the turf war.
Yeah, then shockingly, Scourge just goes, hey, what's this?
With his enhanced vampire senses, he is also now like a bomb-sniffing dog.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I told everyone that this was going to be a problem. No one believes me. Jerry's been a menace for months. I've been fighting him for ages. It's just,
He's starting to get actually pretty good at this.
But you are not good at this.
Holding up pipe bomb.
Shoutily made pipe
One
bomb.
shitty pipe bomb.
Imagine getting scruffed because of a shitty pipe bomb. Just, going in the timeout box. It's just a duct tape box on the floor in the middle of Elysium so everyone points and laughs at you.
Yep, every once in a while they just give it a kick.
Yeah, nothing. There's not actually a box. It's just a taped box square on the floor. It's kind of like the timeout box for like hockey games. It's just a shame box. That's all it is.
Good.
But yeah, so that's kind of the overall building Chronicles. Just there's a lot of just little prep things that are, it seems, I would say, pretty basics. But it's little logistic things that will save you nightmare problems down the road.
Yeah.
And it's just prep some communications things, take some notes on the things your players use, and actually fucking use them. And trust me, guys, the scary of running a good story is not I have to do all of this writing. It is just being like, okay, stop getting called into work. Tell them no. Tell them no. Also, why are we all stupid? Like, I keep forgetting things. It's literally just work-life balance problems and taking notes. Those tend to be the biggest kicks in the dicks.
Yeah.
And we have loads of tools and resources to plan around it. So,
Yep.
hurrah!
Huzzah!
You can run a Chronicle for your friends.
You can do it. You can do it. You should do it.
You should absolutely do it.
Fucking do it. I dare you.
You won't, pussy.
Yeah. You ain't real.
It's much better to have a group of friends who has more people with games than they want to run than time for you to run them all than it is to have a group with one person who can run games and they're constantly overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because then you can take turns.
Oh my god.
Whoa. And when you get good and comfortable with whatever system you're starting with, you can start hopping to other systems. And then when you're taking turns, you can start playing different games, different feels.
Or you can do even the same Chronicle, but you're like, hey, I'm going to ST this group of coterie, and then the next week you're going to ST, it's the same game world, but you're doing a different coterie.
Yeah, we did that with Shadowrun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Except it was the same group. It was the same Shadowrun group. We just had two different storylines going.
Jesus.
Yeah, so what we did is we each played a different set of basically job givers. I forget the Shadowrun term.
Corpse.
Yeah. Well, corpse. Yeah, we split all the corpse up.
Yeah.
And then we each played different Johnsons that they worked with. So like that's how we hand waved that like my character wasn't there. It's like, well, this Johnson doesn't trust my player character. Just didn't need him for this job, so they're not on it. And then they were kind of going back and forth between different jobs, between different Johnsons, and like we were throwing different corpse in front of them.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah. One of my favorite things was we would give them jobs with different timelines. Like, this is due in 3 days. This is due in a week. Are you going to spend the 3 days really fucking finishing this? Because this one's going to be pretty hard, this whole week one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun to watch them be like, how do we manage our time?
Oh, God, scheduling!
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun as a vampire storyteller running multiple coteries in the same chronicle simultaneously, but like different sessions. Because one, that means I don't have to write a whole new city, I don't have to write a whole new prince. And the cool thing is, as long as all the players are Gucci with it, they can be aware of each other.
Yeah.
And have, like, events that happen in the other game session be rumors and just effects that happen in the other chronicle, or in the other coterie. That's been funny, because, like, sometimes one group will just do something fucking insane, or, like, blow up a truck, and then I'll send information to the other coterie going, hey, so somebody blew up a truck.
In a bar, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I need you to go investigate this bar.
I remember that.
It was just like, I literally don't have to write plot. You guys do things, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I just had each coterie investigating the shenanigans of the other one, and then cleaning up the mess of the other one for, like, months. It was very funny. And so when there was a crossover game where I had a couple players from one coterie go visit the other one, they were just like, I'm so done with your shit! Why are you like this? I hate it!
Blew up a bar! Why?
Why? You left witnesses. There were so many witnesses. So yeah, there's a lot of flexibility and options, but yeah, I promise you can do it. I'm a semi-professional dumbass, and I do it sometimes for money.
Yeah, and also if you are a forever ST and you have friends who've like said they're interested in, but they're really nervous about it. Don't be afraid to code DM, help them out once or twice and kind of slowly hands off. If they're really some people just need like a little help the first couple times. Like I have a friend who's super into Star Wars. And he's been wanting to run the Star Wars RPG forever. But enough that there has been new ones come out since he started talking about running this game. But eventually, I think one good way to do it is like, listen, I've watched the main movies. I don't know shit about Star Wars. You have all the information, though. I can help give you, like, the basics of STing and slowly back off, because every time a player asks a question, I'm going to have to look at you. And eventually, hopefully they'll get the confidence to be like, wait, I know more than this guy who's supposed to be helping me. Fuck. I got this.
You can learn the dice. That is fine.
Dice are easy.
Yeah, dice are easy. Storytelling is also easy. It just requires a little bit more effort, and depending on the game world, maybe a little bit of study.
Yeah. And I know we said, like, don't overwrite, but if you're a person who likes writing, I think also just finding the right things to put your interest in, if you can accept that, a lot of this writing might just be for my own fun, and if it comes up or it's needed, I have it on hand, but it's just fun for me to flesh this world out. You can focus on writing backstories for NPCs, even if it's like that guy that they buy blood bags from and he's like just kind of weird and doesn't really talk to him much. You know his whole backstory. If they decide to get invested in him, you got it ready. But if not, helps you roleplay that character when he does show up, and then you move on.
I mean, I don't want to discourage people from writing if it's something they enjoy doing. And it's like, you can utilize it in Chronicles, where it's like, hey, if you're a writer of a storyteller, and you got tomes, turn that into in-game books.
Yeah.
And give it to your players. You can turn it into journals.
Right.
Turn it into audio, like transcripts of audio logs.
Yeah, do Elder Scrolls or whatever, where they find lots of little notes and stuff that like hint at stuff, or just lots of rumors that they overhear on what seems to be like, oh, I didn't roll that well on a dice roll. Wasn't able to listen into the conversation I was trying to. But here's some things you did hear. There's actually a conversation happening close to you that was a bit loud, and you actually picked up on this. And now they're getting some other NPC's backstory that, like, shit, I didn't find out what the prince was talking to about the sheriff in the corner. But I learned that the Bruja might be planning something.
Yeah.
They're never quiet.
You know.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh man, I wasn't able to spy in on the prince and the sheriff's conversation. Well, what if that elder that's been helping your party has a really tech ghoul, and the ghoul just pings you guys and goes, hey, I have the audio files of that conversation. There was a bug. Here you go.
Or, here's my price.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I'll cover your ass on this.
Yeah.
But I need you to do me a favor. Da-da-da. Like, yeah, there's ways you could utilize that. There's also just tons of, like, in-canon books that exist. And there's also a lot of in-canon, like, transcripts, notes, all sorts of shit that if you want to use the pre-gen ones, you can, but if you're a writer and you just want to like flesh that out more,
do it.
Share it. Do the thing. Make cool things, have fun.
That's kind of the whole point.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love fun.
We love fun.
I do enjoy a little bit of fun here and there.
Yeah, a little whimsy.
Yeah. Some whimsy.
A little
bit of lollygagging.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been known to frolic.
You do frolic sometimes. If you want to frolic in good time, we do have Paralyze as the music for our show. They are on Bandcamp, and you should give them $1. Could you imagine listening
Frolicking through a field of dead cyborgs.
Hell yeah. It's metal as shit. Fucking Silicon Valley's worst nightmare. We do exist on the Instagram at Blank Bodies Pod. We're on TikTok at Blank Bodies Podcast, and we also are on Blue Sky at Blank Bodies. If you want to hit us up on the social medias, you can tag us in things if you have questions and or want to say hello or have a cool thing you want to share. We also have a Patreon if you appreciate the work we have been doing and want to give us dollars. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Give money only if you're comfy and safe to do so. But there are various tiers that give you like cool colors and roles in our community Discord. The community Discord is free. But there are some Patreon exclusive portions in that. We also do polls.
I mean, we
did
kind of a pool once.
You did a corn top. That exists on the YouTube. But the polls help us because we are dumbasses to decide what path we are taking and how we do the show. We want to make sure there's content you guys like. There's other rewards and things, and there's also bonus episode every month for the patrons.
That's true.
Whoa.
And right now,
Sarah, Hunter, this is like a chronicle, and there are players, and they're choosing the path we get to see, which is a fucking episode.
Yep.
But sometimes they won't fucking choose.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. They've
been better about it.
And sometimes your players pick multiple paths.
Yeah, sometimes you just, as the storyteller, got to pull out the game show wheel and like thwack that on the table and then break the wheel.
Yeah, sometimes if your players take too long and the decision is made for them.
Yes, yep. I do love the. Unironically, I do have a hourglass like sand timer. I have pulled that out, not flipped it yet, just put it on the table to threaten my players to be like, "All right, guys, I need you to make a decision quickly, otherwise I'm turning this bitch." And they're just like, oh, "Okay." Sometimes you just need to threaten people with cave lightning.
Yep.
If you manifest cave lightning or have a cool project you want to share with us, we do have an interview series. Email us at blankbodies@gmail.com. We would love to talk to you about your cool stuff. I know it is con season, so there might be more cool projects coming up that people want to know about.
If you don't share your cool project with us, then I'm just disappointed in you.
I want to hear about your cool stuff.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
And also, if you like the show but you don't have money for the patron, you can always leave us a review, like a star, however the platform you use works. Share it with your friends, share it on social media. All that helps us out, and we appreciate it.
It really does. It really does.
Leave a comment saying how cute we are.
Comment, like, repost. I get really eepy and make really dumb memes on TikTok, and if you have memes you'd rather me do instead, just yell at me. I do take requests on memes. I've had people do that. They're just like, I've done a meme, and they're just like, I want to see more Slubry memes, and I'm like, done! And then there's like 3 more. So, good. I will take your ha-has and your hee-hees. I don't know if people want us to share little snippets of the show on social medias. I probably should work on that more.
Yeah, some sound bites.
Yeah.
Sound bites.
If there's parts of the show that you think are cool and you want me to share them with the universe, send me the time code in the episode, please. I'm a dumbass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
Huzzah.
Oh, yeah. We're leaving.
We are leaving.
Yeah.
There's pizza.
Fuck. Homies, this is a long episode.
This is we're doing a Midwest goodbye of an ending to this episode.
Goodbye. Right. I want pizza.
Goodbye.
My God.
I didn't mean for this to be so long, but we got really excited.
That was fun.